We begin with the escalation between the United States and Iran that has been dominating headlines all morning long. Now, Donald Trump is speaking out about an American unmanned drone. It was shot down by Iran's Revolutionary Guard in the Strait of Hormuz overnight.
This drone was in international waters. Clearly, we have it all documented. It's documented scientifically, not just words. And they made a very bad mistake.
How will you respond, Mr. President? How will you respond?
You'll find out.
Are you willing to go to war with Iran over this?
You'll find out. You'll find out. Obviously, you know, we're not going to be talking too much about it. You're going to find out. They made a very big mistake.
Now, President Trump, as you point out, as President Trump said, made a very big mistake. But is that what it was? Well, we bring in RT correspondent Rachel Blevins to bring us all the details.
Well, Scottie, President Trump is now saying that Iran made a very big mistake by shooting down a U.S. drone early Thursday morning. He claimed the drone was over international waters when it was shot down, and when asked whether the U.S. would respond by striking Iran, Trump said, quote, "You'll soon find out." Now, there is an ongoing debate over the exact location of the incident. Iran claims the drone was in Iranian airspace, flying over the country's southern province, but U.S. officials are claiming that the drone was actually over international airspace in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Military Central Command confirmed that an unmanned U.S. drone was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile system. They said reports that the aircraft was in Iran's airspace are false, and they called the incident an unprovoked attack on a U.S. surveillance asset in international airspace. In response, the commander-in-chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said the country still does not intend to go to war, but it hopes to send the message that it is fully prepared for war.
Oh, yeah.
Early this morning, the air defense system of the Guard's Aerospace Division bravely shot down an unmanned U.S. spy aircraft which trespassed our borders and was violating our national security boundary.
While President Trump has repeatedly said that he also does not want to go to war, the additional deployments of troops to the Middle East to confront Iran have increased concerns that the U.S. is heading in a dangerous direction. During a hearing of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, members of Congress questioned the U.S. Special Envoy for Iran on whether the administration believes the president has the power to declare war.
Under our Constitution, does the president have the power to declare war?
I think this is a discussion.
It's not a trick question.
Again.
Under our Constitution, does the president have the power to declare war? It's just a yes or no.
We are
okay. All right. Let me make it really easy for you. Under the Constitution, Congress has the power to declare war.
But there are still concerns that the administration could attempt to declare war against Iran without approval from Congress by using the 2001 authorization for use of military force, which has been used to justify wars in countries such as Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Afghanistan, based on the claim that the U.S. is fighting al-Qaeda and its affiliate groups. The committee's chairman also raised concerns about the influence of National Security Advisor John Bolton, noting that he has been described as having, quote, quite a track record of cherry-picking intelligence information that serves whatever case he's going to make.
The Iraq War was not that long ago. I wasn't in Congress when the Bush administration was making its claims about weapons of mass destruction. Many of us weren't here then, but John Bolton was. As Undersecretary of State for Arms Control, Bolton made misleading or false statements about biological weapons in Cuba, weapons in Syria, and of course, about Iraq's development and stockpile of WMDs. Before entering the White House, he advocated for preemptive strikes against North Korea and Iran.
Now, it remains to be seen what steps the Trump administration will take next. But the latest incident shows that any further escalation could have dangerous consequences on a global level. Scottie?
Thank you, Rachel. Now, for more of this, we turn to a professor of international human rights at the University of Pittsburgh and the author of The Plot to Attack Iran, Dan Kovalik. Thank you so much for joining me, Professor. Dan, the U.S. pulled out of the nuclear agreement. The U.S. slapped sanctions on Iran, including on medicine. The U.S. is forcing Iranian oil exports to zero. Now, Iran now says the U.S. even violated their airspace. So, therefore, should those in the United States government and our intelligence be surprised that Iran has become aggressive and shot down a U.S. military drone, possibly?
Yeah, I wouldn't even see that as aggressive. No, I mean, I think Iran is not the aggressor here. The U.S. is clearly the aggressor. Remember that Iran was complying with the nuclear deal when Trump backed out of it. Remember that Iran helped the U.S. after 9/11 with the war on terror. It's the U.S. that's trying to provoke a war, and it's barely even concealing that fact. And by these sanctions and the embargo against Iran, those are acts of war. We are trying to starve out the Iranian people. So yes, no one should be surprised if there may be an overreaction on the part of Iran, but I don't think they've even overreacted. I don't think they want a war. They've made it clear they don't. They know they could be wiped off the map. It's the U.S. that's trying to provoke an incident here.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because there's obviously a lot of different points of views on this. In fact, Senator Tom Cotton this morning tweeted this out. It's time we reject drawing a false equivalence between our Gulf allies and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The object of the Iranian regime from its founding has been the destruction of the USA and its citizens. It's right there in their slogan, Death to America. So, Professor, I have to ask you, what do you say to those? And this is a senator, and it's backed up by Lindsey Graham and others in leadership and GOP leadership who see Iran as a threat to the United States.
Yes, well, I disagree with them. Again, after 9/11, Iran offered help with the war on terror and gave it. Helped the U.S. fight the Taliban in Afghanistan. Helped arrest high al-Qaeda officials. The irony is Iran is a mortal enemy of the people who attacked us on 9/11. Our Gulf state allies, on the other hand, particularly Saudi Arabia, actually helped support al-Qaeda and ISIS. And that's documented. And yet Saudi Arabia is our friend and Iran is our claimed enemy. None of this makes sense from a national security standpoint. There's much more behind this than national security. Iran, in fact, sent a fax to George W. Bush offering talks on all issues the U.S. had with Iran, and the U.S. just ignored that. I think that we have shunned Iran because they overthrew a U.S.-backed dictator. We have to remember that, the Shah of Iran, the most brutal dictator in the world at the time. According to Amnesty International, in 1978, the year before the Shah was overthrown, Iran had the very worst human rights record in the world, and the U.S. backed him until the bitter end in 1979. The Iranians have a bit of issue with that, but the point is the U.S. has never forgiven Iran for overthrowing their dictator, the Shah of Iran. And that is what this is all about.
Well, we could... And I agree, it does go all the way back to Carter. And I think Carter, did the Shah very wrong. I think there was cancer treatments that he denied here in the United States. A lot of backstabbing issues and a lot of people that definitely have some pain from back then. But we look at the president. We do have something was going on that caused the Iran nuclear deal to not only be signed by the United States under President Obama, but by other countries, our allies. So there was obviously some issues of contention. Here's my issue with this. I think they're all bad over there in a lot of ways. But what I don't like is I don't see a detailed plan of the United States. What do they want Iran to do besides just don't make a nuclear bomb? I don't think that blanket comment works. I want detailed, specific things that it's going to take to de-escalate this situation. Real quick, why have we not seen the specific bullet points that this administration is asking from Iran? If both sides are saying, we don't want war, well, what's it going to take not to have it?
Yes, well, I think what it takes is for the U.S. to de-escalate. They're the ones who've escalated this situation. The U.S. was a party to an agreement that was working. It backed out not because the agreement wasn't working, but because it wanted to increase hostilities with Iran. So it's therefore up to the U.S. to say, we don't want hostilities, we're going to ratchet back sanctions, we're going to ratchet back the oil embargo, and start dealing with that country on an equal footing. But that's not what the U.S. wants. The U.S. is making it clear it wants war. That's why it's not giving Iran any points to make peace, because the U.S. wants war. That's what's very clear from all of this.
Well, but President Trump has said over and over again, and even said it today, and I thought his press conference was very light and tame. If he really wanted war, he could have got a lot more aggressive. He didn't. He actually gave them some wiggle room, saying, I think this could have been not necessarily the government, but just a faction on their own who worked it this way. There's a lot of wiggle room here, but I agree with you in the fact that there's obviously some very hotheads that are prevailing in the situation. I think it's on both sides. And I think the truth is we just want to make sure that there's no nuclear arsenal, nuclear wars that's being made on either side that could escalate us into an even bigger issue. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.